Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Tristan Merrick here, the digital storyteller, and I am super excited to be with you once again for another episode of Creative to Creative. It is the podcast for the creative, the person that is intellectually creative, who is just a dope creative, who is passionate about telling stories through different visual and digital media formats. And on today's show, I have none other but one of the dopest creatives in Toronto, and you should know about him. His name is Mr. Flash Forward himself. Drum roll, please. Can you hit the lights? Jamal Ward, what's up? How you doing, bro?
Hey, what's going on, Tristan?
He's so smooth. I gotta give him some love still with a foghorn, because you are the smoothest cat I know by far. No matter what, you're always just, yo, what's up? What's up? How you doing? So how you doing, my friend? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm just, staying busy, creating different things that it's going to help a lot of people right now, and just doing my thing, So the times have obviously changed, and we've had to kind of pivot as a creative, I guess, unit. So yeah. It's cool that I'm out here today with you to kind of talk about some of those things, I guess.
Yeah, no, I was really excited to reach out to you because, I mean, in a lot of ways, you and I have had not a lot of connection necessarily, like doing work together, but like just being on sort of the same sort of tip in terms of like really grinding and building our brands and getting cool opportunities. And there's this mutual respect that both of us have for each other. And I love, the thing I love about you specifically, Jamal, is the fact that you're relentless about your craft, and the fact that, you don't give two flying F's about anything other than, I'm gonna tell this story. I'm gonna do what I do. I'm gonna get the gear that I need to get. I'm gonna find people that are like-minded, and we're gonna build this thing, right? So can you tell us a little bit about your story? And you don't have to start, you don't have to do it linear, but like, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what makes you kind of unique as a creative.
Okay, so I was pretty much always that kid that was into, film and photography from a really young age, but it didn't really get serious for me until my cousin got married, and I was one of the groomsmen in his wedding, and I was able to see the company that hired him, or that he hired, sorry, that shot his wedding. I got to see like the behind the scenes of how everything happened. So I was like literally a kid in a candy store, and I was like, this is amazing. And what ended up happening was I kind of reached out to one of the guys at the end of the night at the reception. I was like, hey, I'm really into filmmaking, and I loved what you guys did here. And I was just curious if you guys are doing any kind of apprenticeship program or anything like that. And he basically said to me, you know what? Yeah, we are looking for an apprentice right now. And, send over some of your content or whatever you've done, and we'll see what you're kind of working with. And realistically, at the time, I had absolutely nothing wedding related, like nothing, right? It was just a bit of sports work, just, personal projects or whatever kind of crazy stuff I was up to at the time.
Booty shaking videos.
Never that. Never that. But yeah, they just basically said, send us over what you had. And I guess they just liked my energy or my vibe or whatever it was, but they gave me a chance, and they're like, yeah, come out with us and let's see what you can do, right? And I ended up doing a few weddings with them, actually quite a few weddings with them. And they said to me, you got something more than what we need from just an apprentice. So would you be interested in shooting some weddings with us? And I was like, well, of course. Like, you're going to pay me and teach at the same time? Like, of course. So that's pretty much how my, let's say, professional career begun. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I was really appreciative of, what they taught me in the ins and outs of, like, let's say, the wedding industry or whatever. But there are also a few things I just didn't feel was the best way of doing it. And that's what kind of pushed me towards starting my own company, and just doing things under my own watch, let's say. And that's where Flash Forward was pretty much created. And from there, we have a sister company now called For the Dream Weddings, where we specifically take care of weddings over there. And anything more, let's say, commercial or promotional or what that kind of, design type work will be done over at Flash Forward.
No, that's dope. That's dope. I find, like, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But like, I find like your work is like, and this is not in like any bad way, but super sexy, like very slick, very there's a vibe to it. Like there's like, like, do you know what I mean? Like every person, every creative
Mhm.
has their own sort of signature. And I think like a lot of your work is really like, it has this very like slick vibe to it. Like very much like there's intentionality around like using color, using obviously a certain type of equipment like the red cameras and things of that nature. But like, how would you describe your work in terms of, whether it's wedding or it's commercial work? What would you say if you were telling somebody that, and they'd never seen your work before and you could only describe it with words? How would you describe your work?
Obsessive. Like my approach to my work is like I get super obsessed with like what I do. So it's like I guess um, I don't want to say that there's a lot of lazy filmmakers out there, but there's people that let things slide. Let's say so they'll shoot it a certain way, or they'll set it up a certain way, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is good enough," right? And I don't do that. Like I will go the extra mile. I'll do whatever I got to do to make it get to the point where I'm like, yo, I'm happy, like 100% happy with this, right?
Hmm.
And that's literally my approach to how I do everything. So if it's from a visual perspective, right? I'm not going to say I'm perfect. Obviously, there's obviously different ways that I'm going to be improving, and that's the cool thing, I guess, about what we do is that there's always opportunity to learn. And when you do take that, let's say, a obsessive approach to your craft, right? You're always getting better. You're leveling up all the time, right?
Hmm.
So that's pretty much my approach in how I do everything. And I guess the next step in terms of my overall, let's say, work is to start really putting in that storytelling, let's say, element to what
Hmm.
I do, right? And that started becoming like real for me when I started creating like treatments and having those conversations having those conversations with my clients or couples or whatever to just really understand what they're looking for,
Hmm.
taking that into consideration, and then putting like a bit of a story behind sorry, putting a story behind it, and then making it beautiful, right?
Hmm.
So
So
that's what it is for me.
yeah, no, I love what you're saying there. Because I think in a lot of ways, you know, oftentimes as creatives we get into sort of the cool factor of whether it's gear or whether it's like making things look really really cool, but we don't necessarily we don't focus in or home in on the story. And even for myself, I feel like I I do that. I fall into that trap, and I think that I always need to kind of recalibrate. So my question is like, what made you kind of identify and realize like, okay, story is kind of my next biggest hurdle or the next sort of mountain I want to climb and master? Like, how do you, because so many people, there's so many different ways to level up, right? And so many different things you can learn on this journey. How did you make that decision, or how do you make decisions on what you want to get better on next? You know what I mean?
Okay, so I guess the turning point for me was when I started doing more commercial work. And I guess when you're doing commercial work or any type of, let's say, promotional or marketing type of things,
Mm.
it's important to not only make something that really looks good, right? Because people are going to, look at it if it looks good. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, the company that you're working with or the individual that you're working with, it has to drive some kind of results for them. So
Mhm.
um, when you do have a planned out story, let's say for their project, and you go in there and you shoot based on the storyline that you're going with, at the end of the day, when they release it out to their intended, market group or client base group or whatever, it's driving results for them, right? And if everything is just beautiful looking content with no real direction on what's supposed to happen next or what the client is supposed to take from it, you're not going to drive sales for that client. So I guess that was my turning point, is just really just making sure that I'm making the beautiful stuff and I'm helping that client make, whatever type of financial gain that they're trying to get from it, so that ultimately they call me back again.
And that's I mean that's the game, right? The game is not just about doing one offs, but to really build that level of relationship, and that's that's important. Like I think even hearing you speak about story and the importance of story, the way I look at story is kind of like, making things look good will get their attention, right? Will get the audience's attention, but telling a good story will keep their attention. And I think
Absolutely.
that's the biggest difference is like you want to be able to figure out, with clients, what's their target audience or focus, and how can this film or this ad or this video or this photo or this audio piece that I'm creating for you, how can it now keep the attention of your target audience and then cause them some sort of emotional reaction that they want to, go and take action and buy the product or interact with your brand, right? And I think that's something that I see, the best brands and the best sort of creatives do, and I see that in your work as well, as you're growing, and both of us as we're growing. It's really hard to do, though. It's really hard. It's not something that
Oh yeah. Oh
comes
yeah.
natural. Like how
Oh
do you
yeah.
feel about that? Like what, like how, in terms of the difficulty, and how do you overcome that?
Well, I take the same approach to any, like, let's say, problem that I face. It's like Kobe Bryant, right? Late
Mm-hmm.
great Kobe Bryant. His way of approaching anything that was out of his comfort zone was to take it and break it down to the most simplest forms, and then figure out how to solve those small individual isolated, let's say, issues, right? And for me, when it came to storytelling, my biggest issue was visualizing it right off the rip, right?
Mm.
So I wasn't really able to, let's say, hear something from someone and then internalize it in my mind and create a visual, let's say, guideline, let's say, to how I wanted to do things, right? The way I have to do it is I have to write it down and think about it, right? And that's
Mm.
where it really switched up my whole creative, let's say, workflow. Was to start taking the ideas from clients or couples, right? Because weddings are story based. Also, listening to what they wanted and what they needed, internalizing it a bit, but then taking my ideas in my head and putting it on paper or, well,
Mm.
iPad, whatever, digital, whatever, how you want to say it. But I took it and I started writing it down, and then from there I was able to start developing, let's say, a storyline or something like that, or even if you want to just call it a shot list or whatever, right? And that really, really helped me, right?
That's
Like
dope.
if I didn't start doing that, I would have still been all over the place, let's say, right?
Mm.
And that was what really switched it up for me.
That's dope. No, no, no. That's really dope. I love the fact that you broke that down because, for me, I'm the exact opposite. So I can hear people talk and I can visualize immediately, and I can start creating in my mind, and I can see the shots, and I can see how the end product. But I was, for years, I was afraid of writing. I was afraid because I never looked at myself as a writer. I grew up, I wasn't the greatest reader. I wasn't the greatest writer in my class. I could present the hell out of anything. You could give me, oh, these are oranges and apples, and you got to now present about the fantasy life of oranges and apples, and I could create that like that. But to write it down was something that was challenging for me, and I found myself getting into rooms, but then and getting opportunities, but then taking forever to do treatments or forever to kind of lay the case down of why I was the best. So I would be weak in the presentation and the documentation side of things, at least initially. I'm a lot better now, but I would be great in the presentation side of things and building those connections and those relationships and connecting with the brands. So what I'm learning is like the value of, like what you said, you got to do all of these things. You got to do it well, especially if you're a business entrepreneur, right? Or a business, I should say, creative, I should say. Many creatives are just artists, right? And that's okay. And they go the artist route and the artist management route, in the sense of they have representation, and the representation kind of takes care of all of the nuances for them, and they stay focused on just being creative. But there's good and bad to all of those things, right? You know what I mean? Because you're not doing 100% of the job, you don't get 100% of the pay, right? And there is also some inflexibility in terms of, if you match yourself up with the wrong representation, then you may not be able to get the opportunities that you would normally get if you were just flexing on your own. So there's a lot of things. Sorry, no, but no, you have some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the biggest things that happens to a lot of creatives is that they might join like a creative agency or something like that that's feeding them work, let's say, which is the good part, but you're losing so much on the creative end. Like you're just
Hmm.
a hired gun, basically, right? Like this is your
Yeah.
assignment, go and do that, and you have no input or anything on how to make it happen, right? And
Hmm.
I think if we could just not really sidetrack, but just go back a little bit.
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
think
absolutely.
one of the biggest struggles that I've been noticing for a lot of creatives in the like professional space is they don't take the time to understand the like triggers of what makes somebody want to buy or use your services, right?
Hmm.
They kind of ignore that entire part of it. And I mean, I grew up, most of my jobs that I did was in the sales like field. So it came to me more or less naturally when it came to, you know, transferring it over to my own stuff. But it's like there's a lot of things that people just want to ignore. Like for example, for weddings. I know a lot of creative companies that will get an inquiry and immediately just send out an email with the pricing guide and just hope that the couple will choose them,
Yep.
right? And it's like weddings are one of the most, let's say, intimate forms of creating, right? Like as a entrepreneur with a creative agency or whatever, like you're
Yep.
coming into a situation where you're meeting a couple's most important people in their lives, essentially,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, you might be able to do good work. Maybe your prices are, you know, really low and they like that part. Who knows, right? But what's more important is how are you going to interact with their people, right?
Yep.
Like that part of it is huge to me. And like I'll take the time to schedule a consultation, talk to a couple face to face, tell them about myself, get to know about them, right? Make them important. So the wedding day is about them. So you should know something about them,
Hmm.
right? And get through all of that kind of human side of things before we start talking about prices and packages, right? You'll never see my prices or packages until I speak to you person to person,
That's
right?
big. Yeah.
That's
But it's the psychology behind it, right? And I think that I always say this, and Jamal, I'm sure you've heard me say this several times, but people buy from people they like. You know what I mean? They don't just buy from the best
100%.
person. You know what I mean? It's about that inner connectivity. It's about, and I love that about you guys. For both of your brands, because I think you guys get it. You guys get the fact that, like, yo, listen, we don't, it's not to say we don't want to be the best, but we know, you know what, there's areas where we can grow. We know that we can outwork people, and we have areas where we can become better at storytelling or whatever else. But you'll never outwork us in terms of connecting with the clients and putting the client first and
Correct.
making sure that experience is there, making sure they feel good about it. Because at the end of the day, that's all you really have. Yes, you need to know what you need to know, but I mean, for crying out loud, like if the client doesn't feel good in the experience, then that you might as well just write that off as you'll never hear from them again, and you never get another opportunity. And we're running a business; we're not just doing like one offs, right? So I totally hear what you're saying.
And just to add to that, it's like, okay, cool. You connected with the couple, let's say, right? You go out there, you do your job, right? And during your job, you're like really cool and you're interacting with the wedding party, you're talking to the parents of the bride and the groom and you know the guests showing up at the reception, you're just building a connection with all those people, right? Weddings is extremely like word of mouth driven,
Yep.
right? So at the end of the day, right, you've left an experience now with all of these, like let's say 200 people that are now at a wedding reception, right? You've left an experience with all of them, and guess what? People are going to get married, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the whole name of the game is for them to mention your name over anybody else's. And I remember specifically, we did a wedding in Jamaica a couple years ago, and we made it like, well, we didn't consciously do this, but it's like something that we always do is like basically just interact with the parents a lot, right?
Yep.
Like let them know, like, yeah, we're here for you, and oh yeah, yeah, mom, let me see your good side. Show me your good side. Like just little things like that that just kind of involve the parents or whatever. And it was crazy because we came back and we're getting invites to barbecues and you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
things that are happening at the parents' house. They're like, yo, make sure you invite the guys from the wedding too. I like those guys. You know what I mean? It's like things like that. And you think of it and you think about it, and it's like things like that. It's like it says so much more about who you are as a company
Hmm.
than what you put on your website, right?
Hmm.
What you see on the websites for everybody. When you can get that let's say review from the parents of the bride and groom, right? Telling everybody to you need to book these guys, you need to talk to these guys. That takes you so much further when
Yep.
it comes to competing with the other brands doing exactly what you're doing, right?
It's
And
you hit the nail on the head on so many different levels. Like it's so important when people get or understand this, and people, when we say people, creatives, right? We as creatives oftentimes, and you could let me know if I'm totally off on this, but I think that we kind of think the same in this light too, is that we want people to just, we want to almost like cover and hide behind the cover of our work, and we just want people to look at our work and not interact with us, look at our work, buy our services, and we can hide and we can run away. And that's not how the world works. You have to go through relationship. The greatest opportunities that I've gotten, Flash, throughout my whole business career have been through the connections I've made. The best connections have yielded the greatest opportunities. What do you like? You know what I mean?
absolutely, absolutely, I agree 110%. Right, like when I tell people to, or when people find me on social media or on my website, right? They have no idea what they're getting into, right? And one thing that I like, anybody that I talk to, any other creatives that ask me like, yo, Jay, how do you like get these bookings, bro? Like, I remember, I'll tell you a story about promotional some promotional content that was being lobbied out by a client, and they reached out to one of my colleagues, or one of my another creative that I conversed with or whatever, right? And they told me that they got this client, and they didn't book with them, and they're like, what happened? Like, what did I do? Like, whatever, right? And I'm asking them questions about their approach or whatnot, and then I realized like it was the same, that client that they were conversing with that didn't go with them conversed with me, and I charged almost $3,000 more than what they were charging them initially, and I got the job,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
when I realized like it was the same client that we both talked to, it was kind of funny, and I was like, well, did you talk to the client at all? No, they just I just sent them an email. Okay, well, you should definitely talk to the client.
Hmm.
And I'm like, how did you present your information? Right? And I do things called proposals. I'm not sure if you use them also, but
Hmm.
basically when a client reaches out to me and they have an idea, whatever, I talk to them in like a Zoom call or whatever, or in person when we were able to, and get all the information, and I'll create a customized proposal specifically based on their brand and what we talked about. And
Hmm.
then in that proposal, I talk about their goals that they told me that they're trying to achieve. We talk about their target markets that they're trying to appeal to. I give them a short like let's say a marketing strategy on how we can get the content out to that intended group. And then I talk about my investment. I never call it my prices, my packages. It's always, this is the investment,
Hmm.
right? Because an investment should be something that you pay into to receive money back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what investment is, right? So I never call it an expense or a package or a price. It's my investment to you.
Hmm.
And I ended up, like I said, charging I think like $3,000 more for the same exact project with the same exact client, and it's all because I took the time to talk to the client and understand them, right? And one thing that my clients usually say to me is like, nobody ever really does this. Like
Mm.
this is so different. Like you're actually taking the time to talk to me, and I'm like, well, how else am I going to help you achieve your goals if I don't know what they are,
Yep. Yep.
right? And it's like that's a huge factor in the
I,
success of it.
It's funny that you say that because I relate on so many different levels. Because a lot of times, oftentimes, my clients will be like, "Man, like you're really detail oriented. Like you're giving us homework," and I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Yeah, I am." Because I don't want to be a part of anything that you don't care about. Because if you don't care about it, why should I care about it, right? You see what I'm saying?
100%.
Right? It's our time, right? It's our time. It's our like I like every job I say yes to is, hours I say no to my family. Right? It's hours I say no to myself. It's hours I say no to doing another project that I could be really passionate about. It's hours that I say no to traveling or to investing in other areas, right? And I can't get back that time. So if I'm going to invest in time into anything, whether it's volunteer, whether it's paid, whatever else, large gigs, whatever else, it has to make sense, right? And I think that we're both at the place where it's not really like, yes, we want to obviously be making money, but we also want to be calculated in what we invest our time in, right? It's not just about the almighty dollar, because we could easily get, $1,500 gigs a year and, be working our tails off and not be happy and not be fulfilled. But that's not the essence of the creative journey, at least when you're talking about business and trying to grow your business and trying to really do something that's different. You got to think differently about the way you approach interactions with clients and the types of clients. But actually, I want to ask you this before we jump off of the client experience side of things. Did you always start off with a persona, or did you, when you started your business, did you have a client persona that you were targeting, or was it just something that came kind of organically because of your background in sales?
Okay. So no, I didn't. Um,
Okay.
when I got started, I did what I guess 99% of creatives do is you take any and everything that even remotely comes across your path, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that like really travels over to something that's a little even more important as a creative entrepreneur is just learning when to say no,
Mm,
right? You have to you have to protect your creative energy or you're gonna lose it, right?
mm,
If you say yes to everything and like you were just saying before, you're taking time away from yourself, your family, your other projects that might appeal to you more, right?
mm,
Bigger opportunities. So it's like at some point of your career, you need to know when you should stop taking everything and start focusing on the things that you really want to do. And the
mm,
benefits of that is you'll be able to start charging more because you're basically showing your expertise in a certain area, and it creates a better overall client experience also, right? So your clients see that you're really good at this and you're willing to take on their work and just do it in a certain way. It's like, okay, this guy really cares about what I'm trying to do over here,
mm,
right? And again, coming back to that referral type thing is like once you start building those type of relationships where it's a good work balance of work and like personal, right? They're automatically without you having to even say anything going to be referring you to other like-minded clients.
mm, No, no, that's dope. And then it speaks to sort of my next question, which is branding, right? Like how you brand yourself. I don't know about you, Jamal, but for myself, one of the biggest things that helped me leverage to get better opportunities was when I started to kind of, call myself the digital storyteller. Started to talk about digital storytelling, the art of that, focusing on storytelling, focusing on really building the vocabulary of my brand. And then I start to really see a change in, certain people just didn't no longer knocked on my door, if you know what I mean, right? Like certain clients that were just like, hey, can you just do this fast, quick? They didn't necessarily knock on my door anymore. And I was getting more clients that were thinkers. Um, how do you find positioning yourself in the market, positioning your brand awareness, shaping the narrative of how people see you? How has that helped you in terms of getting better opportunities?
I think like what you just said is true to me also. Once I started branding myself as a, let's say, filmmaker opposed to a videographer or something like that, um, a lot of people that were wasting my time before stopped reaching out. I don't know if that's because I don't know if it's because they were intimidated, like maybe this guy's out of my price point or whatever. I don't know what happened there, but a lot of those type of clients just stopped like reaching out. But I didn't get mad, right? Because I knew I had a goal in mind when I started branding myself a little bit differently, was that I wanted to reach a certain type of clientele anyways.
Hmm.
And once it started happening, like once I started branding myself the way that I felt like I needed to be, like a little bit more professional, a little bit more high end,
Hmm.
I started getting those type of clients. Right, people reaching out are reaching out with budgets. People reaching out are people that have like tangible reasons to use my services. Right, it's not
Hmm.
to show off on Instagram. It's not
Hmm.
to be cool amongst their peers. It's to sell a product. It's to capture a wedding. Right, it's to um, brand themselves, right? Like
Yeah.
it's things that is actually important to their the next step in their personal, side of things. So I think branding is like one of those things that no matter where you come from, no matter what you do, you just have to pay attention to it. And you have to realize that the way that you put yourself out there, the energy that you're going to receive is exactly the way that you're putting it out there.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Yeah, no, 100% agree. I mean, so much there. I think, if anything, the one thing that I've learned is that, you know, you can do the dopest work, and you could still be struggling to pay bills. It's really perception. It's really the way you present yourself. It's really the way that you connect, the connection that you make with your potential clients and others is what allows people to win. It's that like 5-10%, you know what I mean, attention to detail, right? Really elevating the project. Yeah, we can just shoot the product, or we can elevate it by hiring, a proper lighting technician, or hiring a DP, or now, getting a budget for styling and for, props and setting. And then now that product doesn't just look like a product. Now it's elevated, and it's become now a full fleshed out brand.
Right, it's
So,
a
say it again.
production. It's like it's a whole production now, and that's what the client sees it as well. It's like if I'm
Uh-huh.
spending $10,000 and you're the only person showing up, what's going on here, right? That's like from my perspective as a client, I'd be like, what the heck is going on here? You're the only person that showed up, and I just paid $10,000.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that work?
Yep.
Right. So it's like again, branding yourself, like showing that you're bigger than an individual,
Hmm.
right? I think that helps a lot in terms of getting bigger companies, because a big company is not hiring one person; they're hiring a
Hmm.
production team. They expect certain things to be done, right,
Hmm.
in a certain way. So I don't know. It's one of those things that you just can't skip.
No, no, you cannot skip it all. And it kind of reminds me of just some of the things that my dad used to tell me. He was just like, when I started my business, a few things he told me. Number one, he told me was like, you know, don't ever beg for clients. Don't ever do that, because if you have to beg for clients, you have to keep begging them to be your clients. So you don't want to do that. But then number two, he said, listen, spend the money on the equipment that you need to do the job. Spend the money. He said, if you spend it on the proper equipment, you'll make back that money. You know what I mean? And that kind of leads me to like the whole idea of like, yo, you weren't one of those dudes to be like, yeah, I'll just buy a DSLR and I'll be okay with that. Your ass has bought in like two or three reds and steady cams and all this other stuff. Talk to me about the decision making of just being like a balls to the wall. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this at a level. Like, what gave you that confidence, that swagger to be like, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna learn this camera. I'm gonna have what Scorsese has shooting his next film to shoot my next video. Like, where did that come from?
I think it came back down to that obsessive like mentality that I have, right? When I first got into the game, like I started very humbly. My first camera was a Canon T3i that
Okay,
had
hold
a
on, hold
kit
on. Big
lens.
up, big up, big up the T3i still.
Right. Yeah, that's the ultimate starter, right? And I had like a kit lens, a 18 to 55, or just something, and a 50 mil. Like I just had like really like entry level stuff. And
Hmm.
I mean, obviously at the beginning I didn't understand how lighting worked. I didn't understand sound design. I didn't understand any of those crazy things that I understand now. All I really understood is how to shoot, press record, get what it, frame a bit, and just things like that, right? But as my company grew, and as my experience grew and all those kind of things, I just realized, like, in order for me to appeal to the type of people I want to appeal to, I need to, like, step it up a bit,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, the decision. I have a YouTube video out there that talks about why I chose red, opposed to like all the other different options that were available, and it just talks about like the things that I knew I wanted as a creative, right? I don't like to be limited in terms of what I can go out there and do based on the type of equipment that I have, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that was also frustrating to me when it came time to start buying equipment was when going to rental houses, they don't have this one or they don't have that, or you have to do it under these terms, and it's like, yo, bro, it's I'm waking up Saturday morning and I want to go out and shoot,
Yep.
right? Why do I got to jump through all these hurdles to get a camera to go shoot, right? So I was
Yep.
like, I'm going to own my own camera, and I'm going to use my camera when I want to use it and do what I want to do with it, right? There's no roadblocks when I own it, right? And on top of that, the mentality of the business side of like how my brain works is like, yo, if I buy a red camera, I buy an aperture light, or I buy these mics or whatever, I can rent them and make some money off of it when I'm not using it,
Yep.
right? So that's really what it came down to me, obsessing over elevating my own stuff, um, having access to stuff when I want to use it,
Yep.
and also having the ability to just be able to rent things out if I'm not using it.
That's good. No, that makes so much sense. I mean, for me, I mean, I'm a big believer in owning your own equipment. I'm just a big believer in that. I believe in that because I feel like, when you're dependent on all these other things, like you were saying before, when a rental house is open, when it's not open. I did a shoot last week, and I was renting like a huge octabox, and the rental house was like, okay, you can only come this time to pick it up, or this time to drop it off. We're open at this time, we're only open at that time, we only take this form of payment, we don't take that form of payment. Then I was dropping it
Yeah,
off, and Jamal, it was so crazy. I was drop off the thing. We didn't tear it, anything. The team did a great job. We used it, whatever, folded it back up. And then the person complained about, oh, you should really pay attention to how things come to you. It wasn't folded back properly in the bag. I'm like, it's a soft box. It's not like it's like a camera. It's a soft box. How was it supposed to be put back into the bag? I mean, that's your job. Your rental house, So it's just like these little things that are just like, what. It just makes me feel like, what, I'm buying. That's why I have my different modifiers, light modifiers, because I'm like, I don't want to buy from rent from a rental house and have all these limitations, and then have somebody school me. I've been filming for 10 years or whatever else, and they're schooling me about how to fold a soft box into a bag. Like, it's like, at the end of the day, I just want to, like you said before, I want to get up, I want to film. I want to film when I want. I want to tear down when I want. I have my setup, in my studio, and I want to do what I want to do. And owning equipment gives you that ability. Now, you don't have to own everything. I mean, I think between the two of us, we could probably start
I
a
still
rental
rent.
house easy.
Yeah, I still rent things to this day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Depending on the requirements for the job that I'm doing, but I don't own it. I don't own every single thing, right?
But let's be
But I
honest, you own
think
a lot.
I own a lot. I do. I own a lot. I own a lot. I could probably at this point now, I think I can probably light up my neighborhood. Like, if I really had to, I could light up my
But you know what? But honestly, Jamal, lighting is something that, like, I know you and I have spoken about this like time and time again, but like, I'm obsessed with lighting. Like, once I
obsessed. Yeah.
realized how important lighting was, and how that cinematic look I wanted to always get was dependent on lighting and lighting shapers and modifiers, I got obsessed. Like, I literally bought, just a couple weeks ago, I bought like 4 more modifiers, because I was just like, I want to be able to have the flexibility to create
Wait,
whatever kind of look I
listen,
want, right?
listen, and this is the message that I want to share with all new and young,
Yes.
cinematographers or whatnot, right? Forget about the camera, forget about the lens. Look and learn about lighting. Because let
Hmm.
me put it to you in the simplest form. If there's zero light in a room and you have a camera, can you capture anything? No,
No.
it's going to be black. It's going to be dark, right? It's going to be blackness. Even with a $40,000 red camera and a $20,000 lens on it, if you're in a black, dark room with no lights, you get a black image, right? What is that going to do for you? Absolutely nothing, right?
Yep.
When you start investing in lighting, you can now start shaping exactly what the camera can see, right? And if whoever's listening to this learns nothing else about the art of cinematography, lighting is the most important part of what you're going to do.
Mm.
Point blank period. Point blank period.
That's good. No, that's
And the
some dope
earlier
advice.
the earlier you learn that, the better your career is going to be.
Yep. No, and many people. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, Jamal, is that many people run away from that fact and just say, "Oh no, I'm a natural light shooter. I like natural light." No, you just like a giant softbox. That's what you. That's what you're saying. You just want a giant softbox. Lighting can do that. Learning lighting, you can create daylight inside of your house. You see what I'm saying? This looks like I have a giant window, in my basement. I'm in my basement. My basement has one window, bro. I have literally a light behind me shining my on my back wall. I got a giant I don't even know what to call it. It's like a softbox circle pendulum thing, right? And then I got another little warm light that's like another sort of circular warm light. But again, nobody's going to know that if you don't pay attention, you don't start practicing, right? And this is a part of practicing, like doing a live stream and lighting myself. I'm practicing, so then when I actually get into a room where I need to create daylight, I know what I need to do and the tools I need, right? So to your point exactly. But let's change gears a little bit. Let's have some fun. Tell me a little bit about like okay, so you're growing, you're learning, you're becoming this sort of extraordinary filmmaker extraordinaire, and you get married in the middle of a pandemic. You find your wife,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, how did that happen, and how did that affect you as a creative, and how you create and how you approach the creative process?
Well, getting married is just one of those things that really opens your eyes up as an adult, right? Because literally before you're married, even like when you're dating, you're responsible for one person and one person's needs only, right? That's
Talk to the
yourself,
people. Talk
right?
to the people, Jermaine. Jamal, sorry. Talk to them.
Yeah, like you're responsible for yourself. When you get married, like you're now entirely responsible for an entire other person.
Hmm.
Like from the way that they feel to the things that they're going to be eating, just everything, just all the way down to your finances. Everything is now two people, right?
Hmm.
And when I got married, that was also another gear switch in terms of me as a professional, right? Like I don't think I was ever the type of person that would be like lackadaisical or just kind of, like, oh, if it happens, it happens. I go out and I make things happen. But after getting married and after like, starting this life with somebody else, it like upped by like 40%, 400%. Like I don't play when it comes to what I got to do, right?
Hmm.
Like if you're a client reaching out to me, I'm pre-qualifying you. I'm finding out the details of what you need, and I'm moving forward to the next step like ASAP because
Hmm.
my survival, and my wife's survival depends on me getting stuff done, right?
Hmm.
So I think not only just getting married, but like as an individual, you really just have to find different ways to motivate yourself past the dollar, right? Like you
Hmm.
just have to have a bigger reason, a bigger goal for what you're doing in the long run. Because I mean, the next step in my journey is going to be starting a family. It's going to be buying our first home together. Like it's just stuff, right? And those kind of things need to be supported some way. So you have to motivate yourself some way to make those kind of things happen.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, Jamal, because I think many creatives can't see past the next project, and they don't understand that, like, you know, you're a whole person, right? And at a certain point, do you want to have a family? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to have some of these things that maybe your parents had, or other family members have? Because that will inform your decisions on what projects you want to embrace, what sort of direction you want to take your career. And I think that those are conversations that many of us as creatives are afraid of having, because those are
Mhm.
adult conversations. You know what I mean?
Right.
That will
Big
make a
man
difference.
things.
Sorry, say again?
So that's big man things.
Yeah, those are big man. Listen, we talk about it all the time. We talk about, listen, that will inform your decision on whether or not you're getting the next Blackmagic RAW camera, or the next Red camera, or you're gonna invest in, putting down a down payment on your home, or investing in a studio, or what I mean. For me, it was like, okay, how can I make my home make money for me, right? So obviously your home is gonna make money for you, because I mean, real estate is insane right now. But beyond that, it's like, okay, well, I have a basement, and there's COVID-19, and we can't necessarily go out, and we can't always rent studios. So how about I create a studio in my own home, right? A part of that was I always wanted to do that, and I seen it with my father when he was a photographer, and I was living at home. But then another part of it was just the idea of like being very frugal and intentional about the space that I had. You know what I mean? My home can be my place of safety, but it can also be my place of creativity, right? And that's something that we've spoken about as well, like the whole idea of having a place to create, right? Tell some of the listeners about how, when you got married, you moved in obviously with your wife, and then you finally appreciated the idea of having a space to create. Like how has that changed, or how did that affect you in some ways, in terms of like creating for YouTube, content creation, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I think one of my biggest struggles as a creative was um, being in an area where I can solely focus on that, like creating,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like usually I'd have my laptop, I'd be in the living room, or I'd be in the kitchen, or I'd be here or there, wherever, trying to focus and, get things done. But obviously when you're not somewhere that's like set up for work, let's say, there's distractions, like a lot of distractions that happen
Mm-hmm.
every day, right? And like I'll say specifically for my YouTube videos, one of the things I hated having to do was set up to shoot the video. Because it's like you got to set up a camera on a tripod, you got to set up the lights, you got to set up the audio, you got to frame everything every single time, and it's like it's a lot of work, right? Like
Yep.
you actually physically have to do stuff to make that happen, right? With a
Mm-hmm.
studio space, you can literally leave maybe, like, let's say 60% of what you need to use to create the videos in its spot and just be ready to shoot. You know what I mean? And that
Yep.
that believe it or not, it helps a lot in the creative process, because you might have everything, written down and ready to rock, but then it's like, oh man, I got to go and set up this whole studio now to be able to do this. Do I really feel like doing that right now? And it's just like,
The motivational
sometimes I
factor.
answer
Yeah.
is no.
Yep.
Sometimes the answer is no, right. But when it's set up and it's ready to go, like, you just go.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's what
I
a creative space allows you to do.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think that I found myself doing the same thing, um, Jamal, in the sense of like before I finished my studio space, my basement space. I found it to be daunting to do a live stream, or to like get the courage up. Okay, now I got to put the lighting up. Now I got to put the curtains. I got to move things around so it doesn't look so dirty, and da 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 da. This week, listen, I could jump on a live stream in 5 minutes like that. Boom. Turn on the light,
Right.
turn on my little thing here, have my mic here. I got my Rodecaster Pro, and I'm good. I'm ready. And I got my sound effects ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Ready with this thing. And it makes a world of a difference as a creative. And even just from the standpoint of like being able to have a space that's allocated and anointed just for you to create is a big deal for me. You know what I mean? And still, I mean, obviously there's things that I would like differently, whatever else, or I'd change around. But like overall, this is head and shoulders better. Better in terms of where I was, where it was just basically a cold, bleak basement with concrete flooring and concrete walls. But yeah,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
let's talk about a little bit about like where you're taking your career now. What are some of the things that you're really passionate about? I know that there are so many things that were on the go for you. I know at one point, and I think you're still doing it. Like you were developing and working on your first course, your first filmmaking course. There's obviously the YouTube channel. There's obviously the dope work that you and Karan, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Karan, you guys are doing some amazing work partnering up together as sort of a dynamic duo. I love what you guys are doing. You're obviously doing a lot of gear reviews. You're doing mentorship. You're doing photography. I mean, you're coming up on a year, your first year anniversary. I mean, there's so many things going on for you. Like, what are some of the things that you really? Oh, actually, and you told me also a couple weeks ago that you're finishing up a couple of scenes for your first film. Like,
Yeah.
tell the people what's going on. Like, come on, beat your chest a little bit, man.
Listen, like one thing I'll say is the whole COVID situation really forced me to expand myself, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like let's be realistic, COVID hit, and we'll say maybe 80% of your overall bookings just vanished with it. Like it
Yep.
just evaporated, right? And even like let's say for example, a lot of the bookings that I had for like weddings or whatever prior to the whole pandemic, everybody's postponing, right? They're either doing it super small or it's being postponed to like 2022, 2023. During the pandemic, you had to pivot, right? And you had to kind of expand yourself and experiment a little bit. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, like I said, I was always into filmmaking. I was always into these other things, but I never really took the time to give it a real shot. And I got the opportunity. I met with a playwright, and he had a whole entire idea on paper, ready to start shooting. And he brought it to my attention. He's like, "Yo, like I don't want to work on this with anybody else." And that's where the opportunity to start creating this film came about. And from there, it's just expanding, expanding, expanding. And I've learned so much, like so much after shooting this film. We shot it for
Right.
about I'm gonna say like a year and a half now of filming that we did,
Oh
and
wow.
a lot of that time it really spread that far just because of the whole pandemic. We had to
Yeah.
do a lot of things, get a lot of permits and just a whole lot of stuff to be able to do what we want to do, and just scheduling everybody and all that. But I learned so much. And I mean, for my online course, which is also another really big thing for me, like I really care about helping people be better shooters. Like I know a lot of people nowadays, they're like so concerned about protecting their creative like content and
Yeah.
ideas and that kind of stuff because they're so afraid that people are going to take it and they're going to lose from their own client base. And it's like, bro, you need to listen. I'm gonna talk directly to the people right now.
Listen up. Listen up. Listen up.
Stop competing with people. Stop trying to compete with people. Okay, what you should be doing is looking at everything that people around you are doing and trying to learn how you can implement certain things to make yourself better. And at the end of the day, if you see another dope cinematographer or photographer or whatever, stop competing with them and start figuring out a way on how you guys can work together. And I'll
Mm.
tell you this much. I'll tell you this much. You think what you're getting paid right now or what we're getting paid right now in the creative space is a lot of money. I'm going to tell you right now, it's absolute peanuts. Okay. Compared to what's available on the market right now. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is billions and billions and billions of dollars on the market right now. And even if let's just say, for example, there was some way for you to monopolize the cinema's creative space, it is impossible for you as an individual to be able to maintain that type of workload. It's
Mm-hmm.
impossible. So your
Yep.
best bet is to stop trying to be an individual and start trying to work with like-minded people and bring something to the table that both of you guys can benefit off of.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
if just do it. Stop competing. Stop trying to keep your secrets to yourself. Start sharing your ideas and successes with others around you and team up with people. And that's exactly my mentality. That's exactly my mentality when it comes to this course that I'm creating. It's like I'm going to give you all the sauce, everything that I've ever learned or know or trying to learn or move forward with. I'm going to give you all the sauce on how to build your brand and be better. And the way that I look at it is like, yo, okay, cool. This guy taught me how to do lighting properly, right? This guy taught me how to do that properly. Let me go out there and take what I've learned and try to appeal to a better client base. In some weird way or form, so some weird shape, way or form, that might come right back around to me where that client that learned from me is now asking me to come and shoot with them on a $500,000 budget project. You know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
like, put it out there, build that, again, like you said, relationship with people, and make things happen.
It's bro. I'm telling you, and that's something I had to learn. I've been learning a lot of different things in the last few months, but one of the things that O'Shane and I did kind of as a mentality from the very beginning was like, yo, listen, it doesn't matter who gets a job. Where I go, you go. Where you go, I go. You see what I'm saying? We're getting the opportunities together. We're building relationship. We're building our network. And as our network grows, everybody will benefit, right? Because we're only one person. We cannot be in every single room. We will not be on everybody's lips. You see what I'm saying? Even if we had a full PR, McDonald's PR team agency doing what they need to do to get our names into every room, we wouldn't be in every room. So the big thing is to build and establish great connections and relationships with people that you said before, that are like-minded, but then also to add to that, do what you do well and find people that do what you do pretty good better than you. And that way you create doper work, and then you get better budgets, and everybody can eat. That's what it's about. It's like I'm learning that it's so powerful when everybody gets to eat. I was on a production last Thursday, and like I was the shooter, and then like the photographer. Then another person that I knew was doing video. Then another person that I knew was doing lighting tech. Another person was assisting. But we were all eating. We were all eating, and we were all having fun. We were all creating something dope together, right? And I think that there's a power in that. You know what I mean? There's a power in realizing that you don't have to be the best creative. Like, I think it's more powerful to be like, to empower other people, and more fulfilling, in my opinion, to empower other people and to see what you guys can create together as a whole than trying to be Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't do it all by yourself, man. That's the name of the game. And you said it like as crystal clear as it is in my world, is like, I love shooting. That's
Yep.
what I do really well, right? I make really good content, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I the best sound recorder? No. Am I the
Mm-hmm.
best storyteller? No. Am I the best photographer? No. So why not bring in the pieces that is going to help the overall appeal look and feel better for my clients, right? They're not going to
Mm-hmm.
be mad that I'm not the one doing everything. They'll never be mad that I'm not the only person on the project, right? If I'm bringing in more people, they'll look at that as like, whoa, this is money well spent.
Mm-hmm.
And once you produce that type of content that's at a greater level than you can ever do by yourself, what's going to happen next? You're going to attract more clients with bigger budgets.
Yep. 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 No, you're
And
exactly right.
once we get out of that crabs in a barrel mentality, it's you open so much opportunity for yourself. It's crazy.
I think that the reason why that's there is because we so there's a truth in, let's be honest, Jamal, there's a truth in the fact that there has been for years scarcity for black creatives. Okay, if we're being honest, right? There has been a scarcity of opportunities, right? Part of it has been self-inflicted, where it's like, we didn't rise up to the moment and the occasion, and then other parts of it has just been like our white counterparts or other communities that are exactly the same skill level as us get more opportunities or get more chances to be able to grow into those larger opportunities. That has just been a reality. But I think that the things that we can control, we should control. And the narrative of like, getting into a room and closing the door behind you, we can't afford to do that anymore. We can't afford to just, try and take an opportunity and then just work with all the same people that are not a part of the community, when we know that there's people that are ready, willing, and able and educated to be able to do the same job and same role, and should get those experiences and get that exposure. That's the only way that we're going to be able to see more, flash forwards, more, O'Shane Howards, more Qurans, whoever else, is when we get into the door, we are intentional about bringing people with us that we know are ready for the moment, so that we're not losing any confidence in the client, with the clients believing in Black creatives. But then at the same time, we're also saying like, yo, it's not just about us. It's not just about, because again, I can get 100% of the pay, but then I have 100% of responsibility, 100% of the risk, 100% of the stress, 100% of the large project management that I got to deal with. But if I bring in pieces of people, listen, my boy Andrew James says this all the time: 100% of zero is still zero, right? He said, but 60% or 50% or 70% of 1 million is a hell of a lot of money. Or even if you're splitting it 25, 25, 25, whatever it is. Like I'm just at a place now where I'm okay. I don't have to be the whole breadwinner. I want to be a part of the process and realize that we're building that journey together,
And I think the what just to just add what you were
Yeah.
talking about, especially as Black creatives, it is very important for people like us who are, let's say, the pave way makers or whatever. Like we're the people that are pushing for the envelope to bring in people of color to opportunities that we're seeing. It's super important for us to continue to do that. But on the other side of the spectrum, and I can't stress it enough, is especially in the Black community, we have this mentality almost of like, yo, that's my bro. Like, he's my guy, he's my dude, like
Yeah.
he'll that can slide. Like if I show up late, like that's okay because that's my guy. Like, no. Like
Mm-hmm.
one thing that people learn about me very quickly when they either, become a part of my team or we start working with each other is I don't play that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do not play that, right? When it comes to my clients and getting things done, I do not play with that. You have
Mm-hmm.
to show up on time, you come dressed appropriately. If we have due dates, we hit our deadlines, and I don't want to hear excuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were working your 9 to 5 job, they'd fire you,
Yep.
right? If you're showing up late every day, they'll fire you. If you're not completing tasks, you're not getting paid. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm very straightforward when it comes to that stuff. Like you have to pull your weight when you're the person being added to a project. And
Yep.
and that's one thing that I have to like stress, like especially to our community is take that professional route with other Black creatives and other Black business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Like come and be ready to do the work.
Mm-hmm. No, no, no. I can't agree with you more. I think that there needs to be a level of self responsibility and accountability and self awareness to say that, like, listen, here's the thing. It's not always just about race. It's also about work ethic and about being
Exactly.
intentional. You know what I mean? And we can't scream foul for every single lost opportunity. Sometimes we have to take ownership of when we drop the ball, and that's a part of the growth process. And then another part of it is like, okay, now how can I level up? How can I learn from this mistake and never do that again? Because again, all of us have those
Right.
mistakes. Listen, when I started, like, I remember one time I did somebody's wedding, and for the whole wedding, I remember I rented the PVX 100. It was a DV camera from my college. Shout out to Seneca College, and rented it. Shot a wedding with my father. And then when I was digitizing the tape into the computer, I realized that I wasn't recording audio at all. I didn't record any audio for the wedding. None, zero. Okay. I could have said, well, it was this person put the setting off, or this person did this, or whatever else. No, I took responsibility for it. I owned it. And I said, that will never happen to me again. And guess what? Thank you, Lord. Knock on wood. It's never happened to me again. Why? Because because I learned from that opportunity to grow. And I said, I'm going to buy the best audio equipment I can possibly buy. I'm going to learn about audio. I'm going to make sure I have redundancy. So I have a lapel, I'm plugged into the system, and then I have a boom or something else. I'm going to make sure that this will never happen again. And I think that we need to take that same approach, that same tenacity, when it comes to being able to get opportunities. We don't have the luxury of just delivering what the client wants. We need to smash it, and we need to smash it because we have pride in our work, but then we also understand the opportunities that are far and few in between. We need to make sure that we kill it and crush it, right? That's just my approach. That's just my disposition. I don't know what you think about that, but
And what's crazy about me now and like being at the level that I'm at now is like I can literally talk to somebody for 5 minutes and know if they're really about this life, or if they're just trying a thing. Like almost just that. Like I can talk to you for 5 minutes, and I know if you're somebody that I would want to work with, or if you're just here for whatever. Right?
yep.
It's like self development is one of those things that you can't hide. Right? If you're not trying to fix up yourself, like people are gonna see it. And just to shout out Quran a little bit, that was one of the first things that I noticed about him. Like we met at a coffee shop, we sat down for 5 minutes, I talked to him, and I'm like, yo, this guy understands. Like he knows he knows what I'm about, right? And I'm like, I can do things with you that I've never done before because you get it, right? And it's like even when it's time for us to show up for productions, like the other day we did a really big production for a client's website, and he showed up, and it's like if I say, hey, I need a key light here, I need this or that there, or do this or do that, and it's like, okay, got it. And it's like, boom, things are happening, right? I don't have to spend my time explaining where a key light goes or why it goes there or how to set up a fill light. Like you just know what needs to happen to move this along to the next step, right? It's like if you're not developing yourself, you're not going to know these kind of things. If you're not taking the time like daily, weekly, or whatever to learn more about your craft, it's going to show at some point.
Yep.
It's going to show.
I was just saying this to I would say this all the time to O'Shane and my homegirl Jody Ann Beckford. Shout out to both of those people. They're really great creatives in the city. But I would say to them all the time when I was mentoring them, I would say, like, if you're only picking up your camera when you're getting paid, then you're not really about this life. I said, you need to be like, and I'll say this all the time, and you can ask O'Shane this. O'Shane will do a great shoot, everything else. I'll be like, cool, like this is good. Like you've leveled up. You're at this place. But now let's work on this. Like, you know how to shoot in natural light? Okay, how are you going to shoot in artificial light? How are you shooting with strobe? How are you working to level up on your posing? How are you working on your editing? Are you adding in film grain? Are you trying different focal lengths? What are you doing to on your back end for data management? Like, what are you doing financially? How much of your gig are you saving for, a rainy day or saving for your first down payment on your condo? There's so many different areas and ways to challenge and to motivate each other and to get better at this thing. And this thing is not just about holding a camera. It's about everything in between, the storyboarding, I learned from him, like I'm learning about decks and the importance of pitch decks and the importance of being able to have your website up to date in certain ways, and like connecting with not just, it's not just connecting with brands, but which people are the decision makers, the creative directors, the ad agencies, the producers. Those are the people that you want to reach out to. So it's not just a one-sided thing. We're learning from each other and we're constantly getting better. And it's something that it's like, it goes back to that sort of scripture in the Bible that talks about iron sharpening iron. It's literally that. Like, it's like, if you're not around people that are going to sharpen you, and sharpening is it's not always a nice process. Sharpening is grinding. Right? So sometimes people may get on your nerves and they may keep on repeating certain things to you, but it's only because they want to make you better. So, how are you taking the feedback and making yourself better? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's exactly what I said. How are you taking the feedback? Like, what are you doing with what people are telling you, right? Are you just ignoring it and pushing it to the side and saying, nah, I'm good? Or are you trying to do something with it?
Yep. No, man. Oh, man. This has been a great conversation. I want to give you the last little bit of this podcast, just to kind of make any plugs for anything that you're doing, how we can support you. What are some things that we can do to really help you and your brand and your team thrive even more?
So definitely check me out on my YouTube channel, Flash Forward MG. Follow me on Instagram. Like I've been saying this whole time, my goal is really to help teach and empower other creatives on how to level up and do things better, or learn from my mistakes and just avoid a lot of things. So on my Instagram, what I've really started gearing myself towards is like showing the behind the scenes process of when I go out there and do my thing, right? Like a lot of times, like I look at like a movie or something bigger, right? And I'm like, how did they like that? How did they do that? Right? And it's like I want to start showing some of that behind the scenes so you can see what I'm using, see what I'm doing, and use it in your own workflow and things like that. But yeah, just check me out. My course is still being developed. I plan on launching hopefully by the end of summer, at least the first 4 parts. And if that's the type of thing that you're into, where you want to become not only a better creative, but you want to really start nailing it on the business end of things, that's where this course is really going to help you.
No, that's dope. That's dope. Now, listen, man, Jamal, Mr. Flash himself, just want to say I appreciate you. I respect you. Thank you so much for coming on to this Creative to Creative podcast. This has been super enlightening, inspiring, and I'm sure that people that are watching and listening have gotten a lot out of it. One last thing, actually, let me throw at you. What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody coming up?
My advice is going to be don't focus on the financial part of it, right? That absolutely will come as you develop. Really just try to build yourself with developing yourself, learning as much as you can, and don't ever stop learning. And like we've been saying in the last few minutes, is just try to associate yourself with other creatives, other like-minded creatives that are trying to build themselves also, and don't compete with each other, and just start trying to figure out on how you can work together.
Dope. You heard it from you heard it from Flash himself. Don't compete with each other, but learn how to work or figure out a way to work with each other. So until the next time, y'all already know what it is. It's love. It's appreciation. Thank you so much for listening to this Creative to Creative podcast episode with your host, your boy, Tristan Merrick, the digital storyteller, and with Flash Forward Media Group, aka Jamal Ward. Big up yourself. Big up yourself. Until the next time, stay safe, stay focused, stay creative. Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Creative to Creative podcast with Tristan Barracks. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms. If you would like to be a guest, please email us at info@tristanbarracks.com. Peace.